everyone, I'm Alyssa.
And I'm Brandon. And we're the
Wagners. We're a husband-wife duo who travel all around the country since 2021 for Brandon's travel nursing job.
We love hiking, car camping, new cities, and of course, the best food and drink. Along with adventure, we always look for ways to keep our travel budget-friendly.
So pack your bags and join us as we wander together. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
It is the morning of day 2 of the trip, also day 2 in Amsterdam. Today we are going to do our canal river cruise. We're going to go to a lookout, and I'm most excited for this. We're going to rent a tandem bike today, and we're going to explore places from my grandparents and my family's past. So my Oma used to own a bakery, so we're going to go to the bakery. We're going to go to my papa's old house, my Oom Fonz's house. So today's going to be a really great day for family history, so I'm really excited for that. So let's get started. So first stop, as I mentioned, was to get our tandem bike. Please pay attention to the insane amount of bikes you'll see on every fence, on every sidewalk of every road you see. If you didn't know, Amsterdam is the bike capital of the world. So obviously bike culture is a huge thing here in Amsterdam, and by far the easiest way to get around. So there's bike lanes everywhere throughout the city, and of course it's normal to see people biking with carts full of kids, groceries, dogs, really anything you can think of. The biggest thing to be aware of with this bike-friendly city is do not walk or stand in the bike lane. The bike lanes are red and easily marked, so make sure you walk on the sidewalk and bike in the bike lane because people go fast. Obviously the locals are pros, so just do your best to keep up, and if you're going a little slower or lack some confidence, just stay over to the right so people can pass you on the left. And there are even these like special tiny cars that you'll see that are designed to fit in the bike lane. Once you have your bike, the city is your oyster as you can quickly and easily get anywhere you want to go. After getting our bike, we had a lovely breakfast at a local bar before going to our cruise. So all of my fellow American coffee drinkers, let's have a quick chat. So you probably already knew this, but black coffee that you order every day at Starbucks or brew in your Mr. Coffee, you won't find anywhere on this trip. Here it is all about espresso. So if you order a coffee, you'll receive shots of espresso, and unlike some places in the US, it's not free refills of your coffee. So I like my coffee with some milk and just a teensy bit of sugar. So if I wasn't getting a latte, which is just espresso and milk, I always ordered a café au lait, which is coffee with milk. Typically the milk came on the side as well as the sugar, so I could just make it as I liked. So if you like coffee with milk, you can try the coffee au lait or just a regular latte. So if you're looking for something similar to American coffee, most places will offer an Americano, which is just espresso and water. And fun fact, these were actually created in Italy during World War II because Americans were looking for something like American coffee, but Italians also drink plain espresso, so they, thinking they were playing a hilarious joke on the Americans, gave them watered down espresso, and guess what? We loved it. So now every time you order an Americano, just know that the Italians are laughing at you, but they're good, so it's fine. Anyway, after breakfast, we headed over to the dock for our canal river cruise that we did through City Canal Cruise, which I will of course link in the description for you. This cruise is 75 minutes and 14 euros, which is about $15 US. So they have a live tour guide who spoke in English for our trip, but they also have a plug-in audio tour in 21 different languages. This tour is awesome and gives you some great information about the history of the city and of course some great views. So my papa was quite the woodworker, and when I was little he made me a doll house that had these like large windows all the way up to the top and a big hook at the top with a pulley. And so of course I always thought it was the funniest thing to attach my dolls and like my action figures to the hook and bring them up to the different levels. But I actually found out that he made me a very traditional Amsterdam home. So apparently they used to pay taxes on the width of the house, so all the houses, as you can see, are very thin and very tall, and the stairs, as you can imagine, are very narrow and very steep. So these hooks are actually used to help move big furniture into the house because it's too hard to go up the stairs. So if you look, you can actually see these tops on a lot of the houses. So this tour is not only really enjoyable and fun, but it's a great way to see some of the styles and learn more of Amsterdam's awesome history, so make sure you don't miss this one. So after our tour, we decided to bike around to the places where my family used to live. So guys, I know I was talking about how bikeable this city is. So not only is that because there's appropriate infrastructure to make it happen, but the city point blank is just not that big. So for context, we only had 3 places we wanted to visit, and I literally planned like half a day for these excursions. And I think like in less than 20 minutes, we had been to all of them. We would stop at one and then we would put the next in the GPS and it would be like a 2-minute bike ride. So we wanted to stop by where my papa used to live, where my or uncle Fonz used to live until he passed a few years ago, and my Oma's family's bakery. So I was so hoping that the bakery was gonna still be an operating bakery, but sadly now it's just an apartment. So I'm so sorry to whoever lives there that just had 2 random Americans taking pictures and selfies in front of your home, but I promise we had a good reason. So I figure now is as good a time as any to tell you the story about my Oma's iconic run-in with the Nazis. So my Oma's parents ran the bakery in World War II, and she was in her early teens at the time, but she would of course help them out in the bakery, and one of her main tasks was to do the deliveries on her bike. Well, during the Nazi invasion, they saw how essential bike culture and transportation was to the people in the Netherlands, so they started confiscating the bikes. So my Oma had a really nice bike with rubber tires that wasn't as common then as it is now, so they of course stole her bicycle. But she needed it for deliveries, so being the brave and feisty teenager that she was, she marched right into the Nazi headquarters and demanded that they give her back her bicycle. They essentially just laughed in her face and told her to beat it, but guess what? She still didn't have a bicycle, so she started going every day until they eventually got so annoyed they just gave her her bike back. So I absolutely love this story, and it's certainly a classic in our family, so I just really loved being able to visit the scene of the crime, if you will, and reflect on this bold and strong woman that I have the pleasure of calling my Oma. So we obviously had a super great morning just biking around the city like locals and talking about all these different family stories and history that I have. After biking all around the city, we had worked up an appetite, so we decided to get some lunch. So one thing that we just loved throughout Europe is just how old and historic all the buildings are, and just how much history is packed into like seemingly everything. So lunch was no exception. We ate at the Waag, which is a former city gate from the 1400s. Yes, the 1400s. And now it is just a restaurant, but we loved the real history of the building. Coming from the US, where everything is newer and comes from other cultures, we're kind of used to like the hokey replicas of different landmarks or other themed places. So we just loved being in a real city gate from centuries ago. It's so awesome. So we got a little sampler of some Dutch staples like croquets and some other home style food. We even got lattes, and they came with little cookies that had a little outline of the building on the cookie, and we love that attention to detail. So good. After that, we decided to explore one of the outdoor markets around one of the main centers. We had decided that morning that we were going to book a cheese tasting at Henri Willig, the famous Dutch creamery that you may remember I mentioned from Zanchans last week. So while we were waiting, we walked around this cute little outdoor shop that had tons of tents with souvenirs and a lot of tulip bulb shops. So a little more history for you. You may or may not have heard of the Dutch Hunger Winter, which was a famine in Holland from 1944 to 1945. Food was obviously scarce, so the Dutch people had to make do of what they had. So they got nutrients from eating tulip bulbs, and a common way to do this was in a soup, tulip bulb soup. So my Oma and Papa definitely remember needing to do this and how harsh of a winter that was. One thing that is pretty desired and good in Amsterdam is fries. So in Europe, rather than ketchup, fries are mostly dipped in mayonnaise. So don't be alarmed when your waitress gives you mayo with your fries. So we went to a specialty fry place where the main attraction was actually all the different sauces. So we got a truffle mayonnaise and it was delicious. I'll share a little more about truffles in France, but for now, let's go back to our cheese tasting at Henri Willig. So there are Henri Willigs all over Amsterdam, and you should definitely do a tasting at one. You can sign up on their website, which I'll drop below. Just make sure you have the right one, because like literally just on this little market, we passed a different one like every 50 feet. So there are 2 different tastings. There's one which is 19 euros per person, and one that is 15 euros per person. We just did the 15 euros one and we absolutely loved it. So in addition to the cheese, you also get to taste mustard and dip, as this is common in Dutch culture, and locally brewed beer or wine. So you'll learn all about the cheese making process and of course taste the delicious outcome. So last week I told you we were wondering about the wooden shoes and if people in Holland still wear them today. So we found out that they are typically worn by dairy farmers as kind of like a steel-toed boot, if you will, since A, the blocks of cheese are really heavy, and B, if a cow steps on your foot, it will be protected. Also, more of my Dutch heritage for you. I always grew up having Gouda cheese, but my Oma pronounced it always the Dutch way, like Gouda cheese. And I don't know how old I was when I made the connection that it was the same type of cheese, but it was definitely later in my life because I had only ever heard it pronounced as Gouda cheese from my Oma. But however you say it, cheese lovers, this is certainly a stop for you. So after that, we went to the Adam Lookout, which is of course a nickname for the Amsterdam Lookout. So this building has been around since the 70s, as it used to be the head office of Royal Dutch Shell, an oil company. And in 2014, it got remodeled and they added an indoor and an outdoor observational deck, a revolving restaurant, and a nightclub. So there's little telescopes on the observational decks that have the coolest features where it will actually point out different landmarks to you, and then you can like click on them and learn more about what that building is. And you can even add like filters like night mode and whatnot. It's really cool. The outside deck even has a bar and a swing that goes out over the edge. It's literally called the over the edge swing. This is an additional charge, but it can accommodate 2 people and it is known as Europe's highest swing. So we passed on the swing, but it's definitely worth checking out. This attraction is 16.5 euros for adults and 10.5 euros for kids ages 4 to 12. The over the edge swing is an additional 6 euros per person. And they take your picture for free at the green screen when you first walk in, so you can do some fun poses. And luckily the pictures are entirely free. You don't have to pay for those later. Last stop was to get some dinner, and we were actually able to go back to the first place we tried to go to the day before, which is called Motors, which is Dutch for mothers, for dinner. And we shared a traditional Dutch feast, and we kind of had like a little sample tray of a lot of Dutch staples. It's mainly a lot of meat and potatoes, so it's not over the top exciting, but I really enjoyed everything. And that pretty much wraps up day 2. We still have a few more things to see in Amsterdam, so we'll see you next week for our last day in Amsterdam. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe so you can stay tuned on this Euro series, and we will see you next week, still here in Amsterdam. Bye!